Welcome to Treknicity, a Star Trek podcast, where we're looking to get our hands on the Enterprise's ample nacelles, if you catch our meaning. I'm Lars.
And I'm Patrick, and you're a perv. Yeesh. I really don't have more to add to that.
Yeah, never do. You always do. Either way. In this second episode of the 7th and final season of Treknicity, we present to you a recap of the first episode of Season 2 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds entitled The Broken Circle.
Yeah, and we're going to ride this one all the way to the end. And then we're going to end. And then we're going to do something else. But it'll still be interesting. Either way, let's get into it, which means spoiler territory.
All right, so... Patrick, why don't you take it and do your 2-minute super synopsis?
Ooh, here we go.
I really should have a timer on the screen for this, but I know it would be broken every time.
Whatever. So we cut to the Enterprise dock for inspection is our first shot. Except it's this beautiful top down as they do a cool fly through of Starbase 1. It is awesome. But that's where we find the Enterprise. It's apparently a few months after the big cliffhanger with Una getting hauled off. So Pike is going to talk with her, and he's going to go find her a lawyer that won't take their calls. So he's going to fly off and talks to Spock, leaves him in command, says, you'll be fine. You just hang out in space, Doc. It's your first command. What could go wrong? And that's it for Anson Mount and his hair. Sad. So, Spock, on the other hand, is really stressed out. Apparently, his whole cracking out his emotions to kick the asses of the Gorn has got him all stressed. But Mbenga has a little solution, brings out the lyre. Hands it to him. He starts playing, calms down. Chapel comes in. He gets, how shall I call this? Stressed again. Yeah, that. So, we cut to the bridge. They're having some banter as the inspectors are coming out. Uhura's back, and she in the place where she was where we last saw her, because apparently she got promoted to ensign. We find that out later. And she's back in the communication station, and she's ruling it like the queen she is. Of course, being Uhura, she finds some weird communication. Takes it to Spock, who's playing lyre. Who's sitting in his quarters playing lyre. She comes in and say, "Was that music?" Obviously harkening back to the first time we ever saw Spock and Uhura and that lyre, which is the original series. I'm sure we're going to get some more of that at some point.
That was the episode Charlie X, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. I didn't feel like looking. Either way, she lets Spock know that apparently La'an sent a message and wants the Enterprise to come and save her ass and stop some threat to the Federation. So Spock talks to April. I forget what rank is he? Is he Commodore or
he's Admiral?
Admiral. Okay, I couldn't remember. Admiral April. Yeah. So April says no. So Spock, in the grand tradition of Star Trek 3, except he was the only one not involved in, decides to steal the Enterprise.
That's kind of like an axiom now. It's almost like cliche.
Yeah. And yeah, this is probably one of the most annoying elements of this is seriously that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, of course, talks to the crew. They agree to do it. Mitchell goes down to engineering and starts faking a warp core breach. Or is it antimatter leak? Or I don't know.
Yeah, it was an antimatter leak.
Breach. Yeah, a containment breach happening. So obviously they're evacuating everybody, but our new chief engineer this episode, Commander Pelia, by the amazing Carol Kane, walks onto the bridge like, I'm just doing my inspection. Also, this is all bullshit, and you're trying to steal the Enterprise, and Vulcans don't lie, and you want to do this. Basically tells them how to fake a warp core breach a little bit better. So, of course, they pop Enterprise loose, and Spock gets to say yeet. He should have done yeet rather than, what was the line?
I want to make the ship go.
I would like the ship to go now. Which, at this point, seems to be the running joke that's, it's overstayed its welcome at this point. So after the Enterprise hauls ass out, we cut to, I forget the name of the planet. You can look it up while I'm talking. Where we find Lon, some real damn Klingons this time. Although apparently in the background there's a full Discovery Klingon. And some blood wine. Of course, Lon drinks one guy under the table. Next person pops up, but she says, I want a meeting. So she gets her meeting arranged, and Mbenga shows up and gives her a sign. So they gather together outside the town and start the group info dump, where we find out that apparently there's this group that was making that this planet supplied dilithium constantly during the war. Before the war, it became a massive gold mine for everybody involved during the war, and they want that back, so they're going to try to start the war again. So they find out Lon was there because the one girl from the Gorn episode last season, she was trying to find parents, found them here, but apparently there was a whole bunch of radiation which could only be caused by photon torpedoes. So they split the party. Mbenga and Chapel go do the dock thing with the one girl's parents, and they get captured by some Klingons.
That planet, by the way, is Kajitar.
There you go. So Lon makes a deal. Apparently, the bad guys in this episode are buying up all the Federation hardware they can get and stuff. So she's selling some phasers and does a really cool bluff with some antimatter trigger thing that's complete bullshit, and gets a good deal. Meanwhile, Spock and Uhura are overhearing. Uhura, being an expert in Klingon and being an expert at being able to understand any language, especially Klingon, in every movie except Star Trek VI and every series except Star Trek VI. Yeah, that.
Yeah,
determines that they're about to make their move, because the plot demands they make their move pretty quick. We cut to Mbenga and Chapel. They get taken into the caverns and find there's a ship that apparently the bad guys are building. It's got the it'll later get identified, but it's got the saucer of a Crossfield class and some nacelle strapped underneath, basically. That's what we're dealing with.
Side note, there has been a fair amount of discussion about how much that particular Crossfield class looks like the USS Ares from the disgraced Axanar project.
Yeah. Well, then it's better. Then it's better than that because, yeah. Anyway. Okay, so they get in onto the ship. They do some treatment. Talk about their trauma from the war. And then, okay, we're going to have to go to the bridge. Here, let's shoot the punchy juice, which apparently they hate genetic manipulation, but drugging your soldiers so they can punch harder?
Yeah,
there we go.
I know. The hypocrisy is funny.
Yeah. So, obviously they shoot the juice. We get the wide eyes, the things falling to the floor. And then, although I noticed they dropped the hypo sprays, and then only the container hit the floor. The hypo sprays didn't.
Yeah, that's a continuity error.
Yep, caught that one. So, they go out, they start beating the shit out of the Klingons. Like, they're like, yeah, just an ass kicking. And they do some fighting, and eventually they get to the transponder, they reprogram it, and they eventually get stuck in an airlock. At that point, the ship decides to take off. Meanwhile, in orbit, Enterprise is hiding in rocks and other debris in a ring, and a D7 battle cruiser pulls in, and boy, she's a beauty.
Yeah, that was glorious.
I'm just going to say that. Of course, immediately after that, the reject crossfield thing comes flying out of the planet, comes into the rings. Enterprise takes up pursuit. Because, of course, they pick up the transponder with Morse code, which Uhura, who knows every language except Klingon and Star Trek 6, of course, she figures it out pretty quickly. They give chase because they were told to destroy the ship.
Yeah.
So, eventually, the Klingon ship's firing up, getting ready to shoot. Rogue crossfields getting ready to go. So Spock finally makes the order to blow the ship up. Enterprise fires. Meanwhile, M'Benga and Chapel have found a transponder in a helmet. They blow themselves out of the airlock, hopefully not dying in a minute. Of course, they immediately get beamed on board the Enterprise to save their asses. And then the captain of the starship Enterprise, which is Lieutenant Spock, leaves the fucking bridge in the middle of a fight.
Yep.
In the middle of a potential fight with a Klingon ship to go and bang on Chapel and get her to breathe so he can cry a little bit over his not girlfriend.
Yeah.
That is the stupidest fucking thing in this episode. I'm just going to say that right now. But then, of course, the Klingons call and they want to talk. Klingon wants explanations, calling bullshit on Spock's explanation, and says, okay, fine. I want to meet you now. Okay, Spock says, let's do it over blood wine. So they go to the planet, and they're drinking blood wine. So, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that whole bit on the end, we'll talk about it in a minute, but yeah.
Of course, Peli, the crew goes down, and Peli is there, and she basically promotes herself to chief engineer because everything else is too boring for her, because she's like lived forever.
Yeah.
So, finally, we cut back to Spock, who's doing a little more crying over Chapel and shit, and he goes and loots out with his boots out in his quarters.
You know, the funny thing is, it would have been so cool if like he'd been like doing some Eddie Van Halen sort of shit, you know, some pull offs and some tapping.
Yep. Yeah. Of course, I forgot Admiral April does yell at Spock, who has a bitch of a hangover.
Yeah.
But he pretty much slaps him on the wrist because apparently they don't want to fight a war with the Klingons because the Gorn are ready to kill.
Yeah.
So I think we know that the Gorn, because they set up the Gorn in the last season, so the Gorn shit's going to get real here. We know this.
Yeah, definitely. So that's where it leaves the episode.
That's the episode.
Yeah. So let's go over some talking points. We've got a few listed here. And the idea is that, the whole idea of this episode was to get us back in the rhythm and get us back into Strange New Worlds. And
not resolve the damn cliffhanger.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, thankfully, we know that soon we'll see some sort of resolution on the whole Una Chin Riley.
That's next episode.
Yeah. Have you? We'll talk about that out of the episode. Anyways, yep. So top of the list is the new opening credits. Anybody who has watched both episodes from season 1 and this episode will know that they've got new shiny, sparkly opening titles, which are pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, everything, all the title, the new opening credits. It's basically there's a lot of the old shots in there, but they added new shots and just some fun shit.
Yeah,
I mean, all the effects work, space effects work in this show is just spectacular.
Yeah, and, just for a second, going back. Actually, you know what? We'll talk about that down the list with the D7. it's pretty cool. You know, I mean, I definitely up the ante as far as the credits go for this season.
Yeah. So unfortunately, So the second thing you got here is Spock struggles to contain his emotions.
Yeah, like we saw him cry at least what twice in this
Yeah.
episode. And here's the thing. I understand where they're coming from with it, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea because this is a much younger Spock. He's a lieutenant, and he hasn't really had a chance to drill down and really get a cap on his emotions. I mean, he had to kind of break that barrier as they were talking about from the episode, All Those Who Wonder, where he had to kind of bash the ship a little bit to be able to get his Gorn fighting on, and he broke down some of those barriers mentally that he had put in place.
Some barbarian rage shit going there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, he is struggling to get himself back under control. I don't know if we'll see T'Pring that much in this season. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So we
got to break her back.
It'll be interesting to see what happens because my wife was sitting there, we're watching. She goes, "Is this when these two get together?" I'm like, they don't ever canonically ever get together. I said, and as far as T'Pring goes, he doesn't break up with her. She dumps him in the episode of Muck Time.
Boy, does she dump in a Muck Time. Hey, you're horny and insane. Kill your captain.
Yeah, so I can get out of this arranged marriage. Wait a minute.
And for that,
somebody's got a new toy he's playing with.
Yeah, I found the soundboard, so why not?
Nice.
I'll have to see what other things I can figure out here. So
yeah. So moving on from that, we will. I'm sure we'll see some more development of his ability to regain his control. But moving forward, let's talk about one of the items I think it wasn't quite glossed over. I mean, they did mention it specifically, but they kind of snuck it in there until they talked about it later. And that is Uhura's. I guess we can assume that she graduated from Starfleet Academy and has been reassigned. Or has
back to the Enterprise.
Back to the Enterprise as an ensign, as the chief communications officer.
Well, they had to get her back in her starting position.
Yeah.
It's better than how Uhura got it. How Uhura got it in the Abrams movie. It's like, I can talk. Okay, you're in command. You take the station now because you can understand around me. Okay.
Yeah, that's borders on nepotism. So
yeah. To be fair though, Uhura is really good with pretty much any language except Klingon and Star Trek 6, of course.
Yeah, that stings, doesn't it?
Yeah, that was a screw job for Nichelle Nichols in that movie.
Yeah, it was.
Speaking of it, since we're on the Uhura topic, they did, of course, dedicate this episode to Nichelle Nichols, which was awesome.
Yep. So very cool. Very cool at the end. They did mention, La'an does pick up on the fact when somebody refers to Uhura as ensign, and that's kind of like, well, that's what happens when you take, several months off. Okay.
That was the infodump scene.
Yep, and that was it. That was the exposition, and off we go. So
more exposition than we've gotten in some cases, but we'll take it.
Yeah. Moving on. Next talking point we have is the issue with Una Chin Riley, number one, looking down the barrel of a court-martial and a possible expulsion from Starfleet because she is a Illyrian. Which they are known for doing genetic manipulation, which violates Starfleet's anti-genetic manipulation laws, which has ultimately led to her arrest and imprisonment right now.
So obviously in the future, we're going to see her get vindicated and put back on the Enterprise because she's a main cast member.
Right. Now, there's another part of this, and we'll touch on this in a couple more items, and that is the thing with Carol Kane's new character, Commander Pelia, who is a Lanthanite, which the lifespan is listed as almost forever. And I'm in air quotes, almost forever.
Which explains the boredom thing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's actually, the thing. Oh, we'll come back to it in a minute. I don't want to get rambling on that topic. So that being said, yeah, I mean, Pike took off, tried to get some help. I do know that at some
That's
point
where
in
we
this
leave it.
season, probably the second episode is when we will see the trial um, of um, of number one, because there are promotional shots of everybody in their dress uniforms, which I think is what they use when they wear when they go do the court martials.
Yep. So
So,
yeah, since that was brief, we'll be brief. So Lon's back.
yep. Um, so, um, I mean, it was like I was curious as whether or not. I mean, I knew that Chrissy Chong had been had been re-upped for this season. So we knew Lon was going to come back, but I didn't know how. And I think they tied it together pretty well with having her being on this planet that the Klingons and the Federation take shifts in running, and it was it was a good way to bring her back. But of course, again, you're I feel like there's a little bit of hypocrisy going on, especially given the fact of her heritage. You know, she is a descendant of Khan Noonien Singh. So while she may not benefit directly from genetic manipulation, and of course several generations of the Noonien Singh line probably being, like the genetics being a little bit watered down, so to speak, um, is definitely a possibility or even a probability. However, I think that you have to kind of call bullshit on the whole genetic manipulation thing, which might be a factor on how we see Una come back.
Lon does kind of break that a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, she's a direct descendant of Khan. No, you're not going to do it. Damn.
Original Khan or not Khan?
Did somebody
Original
say Khan? No, original Khan.
Yeah,
there is no other Khan.
Yeah, because there's only one Khan.
That's right. Just like there's only one purple dinosaur, and his name is Dino. There
we go.
So we got her back. She's basically we wrapped up that storyline where she was able to get the child that she went to help find her parents after the Gorn attack in the episode Those Who Wonder from season 1. She's got her back with her parents, so now she feels free to come back and rejoin the crew of Enterprise.
Yay.
Huzzah!
So, now, that brings us to Mbenga and Chapel, and apparently, I don't think they really mentioned it too much prior, but yeah, they had some serious shit happen, and they apparently fought in the war and had some really bad shit happen. And I think what we saw here is, especially in Mbenga, he saw shit during this war.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you could tell there when he was on the punchy juice and he had that one Klingon, he was kicking his ass. I mean, yeah, he was having no problem just beating. Had Chapel not pulled him off, he might have just beat the guy to death. And I don't think he would have hesitated or been bothered by it. At least not for a while.
Yeah. I mean, also you have to remember he did technically lose his daughter in season 1 as well when she went through to the when it was the episode with the Elysia.
Yeah, but that plot was resolved. This is bad shit that he saw.
Yeah, yeah, true, and especially it was Klingons.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm surprised he didn't just break some Klingon's neck. I mean, when the punchy juice was wearing off, he just kept beating on him. So yeah, you could tell there was a little bit of that. I'm back in that mode, and yeah, it was rough.
But again, you can tell that the PTSD is still a real thing.
Yep. So on to the next topic, because we're getting tight on time. Let's talk about Carol Kane.
Yes, as Commander Pelia, the Lanthanite engineer who's been teaching engineering classes at Starfleet Academy, had been on Earth for presumably several hundreds of years. Lanthanites lived for a very, very, very long time, and it wasn't until the 22nd century that
she came out.
she came out.
And
Which
I think
that
they
doesn't
chose
seem to make much sense.
that
I mean,
phrasing for a reason.
it would have had to been like really, really late 22nd century, because the first person she said she came out to was Amanda Grayson, which is everybody knows is Spock's mother, and of course she's a human. So, we know that.
I don't think she didn't say she came out to her. She just name dropped her.
No, she actually. I mean, anybody's listening, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that she actually says to Spock during the drinking scene at the end of the episode, that she said that
they came out in the 20. She came out in the 22nd century.
I want to say she said that Amanda Grayson was the first person she came out to. I'll double check it. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
I'm calling bullshit.
You call bullshit.
I think you misheard that one. But yeah, as I said, as I think I mentioned before, Carol Kane is bringing 31 flavors of holy shit. This is fun. Going to be fun. I mean, if they were trying to pick a polar opposite character to replace the awesome Hemmer, she was exactly it.
Okay.
It'd be a little.
So, according to Memory Alpha, she was friends with Amanda Grayson, who was the first human she revealed her Lanthanite heritage to.
I stand corrected then. So wait a minute, that had to have been really late 22nd century.
Yeah, given the fact that
we're in the 23rd.
We're in the mid 23rd century right now. So, but also remember, and Amanda Grayson isn't that old right now. I mean, because she's sort of old in the mid 23rd century, going into the last quarter of the 23rd century. We see her. That's when we see her on Vulcan in Star Trek 4 when she's talking to Spock, the reanimated Spock. And by then she was pretty old. Although, bear in mind, I mean, in Star Trek, humans tend to live a very long life. A lot of them live way over 100 now, due to the advances in medicine and whatnot. So again, it's
look at when they dragged McCoy on to Enterprise D in the pilot.
Yeah, I want to say he was like 130 or something like that, roughly. When
really
he was
damned old.
Yeah.
Must have been magical space blood. Oh, wait a minute. Wrong movie.
Wait a minute. I think I've got a triple around here somewhere. I think it might have been. That movie doesn't exist, by the way. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, Carol Kane does bring a brand new flavor to that role. I do miss Hemmer, though. He was my favorite character on this show.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah.
He was a moody asshole, just like me.
If we had to... I wonder if they're going to kill her at the end. Maybe they'll make it a tradition by the end of the season. They kill off the chief engineer.
Yeah, that's really why they call Scotty the Miracle Workers, because he managed to survive as long as he did.
Well, they do dress him in red shirts.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And, I think I've seen a meme a few times where it says, Scotty is the only red shirt that still survived. You know how badass he is. So that being said, let's move on to the next topic, which of course is that beautiful, that graceful, that kick-ass,
sexy bitch.
Yes, that sexy bitch, that Klingon D7. It was just hot to trot.
Yeah, I mean, I always love shots of the Pike version of the Connie, because she's a beaut. She has all the lines of the original Enterprise, but she looks like a real ship rather than something that was put together with plywood.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have to give it a pass on that one, because it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. That was the thing. We always had the Enterprise is always good, but yeah, the D7 is one with it's the first Klingon ships we saw.
Yeah. That's right.
Ever.
Yep.
They were made even better when they showed up in the motionless picture to get off real quickly.
Yeah, those actually weren't. For fun fact, those were not D7 ships that appeared.
Those weren't.
No, they were Katinga class. They were the evolution of the D7.
Oh, okay. Either way, more or less the same general lines of the ship.
Oh, of
But
course, yeah. The same general build and lines of that ship, yes. But still,
yeah.
but still, it's a
This
beautiful
one
ship.
was, yeah.
I think the only other variant we've seen of it is in the episode. I think it's the Enterprise incident from the original series when we find out that the Romulans and the Klingons had a technology exchange because the Enterprise suddenly found itself surrounded by decloaking Klingon D7s that had Romulan bird markings on the top of them. But still, beautiful ship, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting to see what other ships they render in this awesome way.
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed a little Easter egg there. When the episode started, and you see that they're flying, they're coming in sort of from the side on the Enterprise, just before they kind of fly around it. There's another ship that's docked there, and that is the Lochnar class, I believe. It's the primary hull with the single nacelle underneath it, no secondary hull.
That nerdy ass ship, yeah.
Yeah, that and the Lochnar ship, I want to say was actually an invention of one of the designers from the original FASA Star Trek role playing game.
Who hated good looking ships apparently.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Still, I'll mock that ugly thing.
Still, I mean, it was a neat little Easter egg. It was a good callback.
Yeah.
So, last on our talking list is.
I will say though, I don't know. Seeing how beautiful that D7 is, I don't get how Spock left the bridge in the middle of a battle with that thing.
Well, I mean, his side piece, which is funny because he must obviously go through a lot of changes between now and Kirk's time because, that being said, he actively, rebuffs Chapel's advances in the original series. So obviously he gets a lot more under control than he is now. To be fair,
I really hope they kind of shit on the original canon a little bit, and have a little more fun with this.
Oh, they're gonna have as much fun as they want because as long as they just get to where they were last time or originally,
where Chapel's the useless mouthpiece and just drools over to Spock pointlessly.
Yeah, well, you could thank Gene Roddenberry for that,
Fair enough. So let's get back to the last bit.
Yeah, the last item we have on our list here is Spock's phrase. How every captain of the ship has their own unique phrase to tell them to engage the warp engine, make it so, and let's go, hit it, punch
me?
it. Yeah. Warp me, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, of course, we're sitting there with bated breath, wondering what he's going to say, and then
we're not, because they put that in the trailer. So
then it's like, I would like the ship to go now. Yeah, how apropos.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they retire. I'm hoping they retire that joke forever because just do it and let the line speak for itself.
Indeed, yeah. So we'll see what happens. We have 9 more episodes this season to see how things play out, and quite frankly, I would say this is a good jump off for the season. I wouldn't say it's spectacular, but
not the episode I'm waiting for. And from what I've heard from spoiler-free reviews, the crossover with Lower Decks is not going to be in the first 6 episodes.
Right, I believe it's actually episode 7, which is entitled "The Old Scientists."
Oh, I did not know that. Yeah, if it's entitled "Those Old Scientists," I think we might have it. But oh well, we'll figure it out.
Indeed. So that's all the time we have for this episode of Treknicity. Thank you for joining us on this episode. Please be sure to check out on our wonderful socials listed below, or actually now up above. And also visit us on YouTube, our YouTube channel at redshirtgeeks.tv, where you can look at the last 9 years of content that we've created. I'm Lars.
I'm Patrick.
And remember, go boldly and to rock out with your Spock out, or with your Spock out, or rock out with your Spock out, or do whatever. I don't care. We'll see you next time.